Hi, welcome to Stories Worth Telling. This is Irving Steele filling in for host Kate Steele, who is busy these next couple of weeks. And we are very lucky to have a guest who's been on the show before, and we're so grateful for him to spend some of his precious time to be with us again. He's an acclaimed author. He's written over 4 books, and he has one more book kind of in the works right now that will be published soon. He's also very active in the community with playwriting and a lot of other creative cultural events here in Connecticut. So welcome to the show, Nicholas P. Checker.
Oh, thank you very much, Irv. Pleasure to be back again. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, so tell us, what's on your mind these days? What's the big story you have to share with us this time?
Well, this Saturday, our Exploratory Playwriting event, the program that I run it in coordination with Flock Theater, or the Flock Makerspace, in the Gard Arts Center.
April 22nd.
Yep, we run the program itself out of the Thames Club in New London. We have a wonderful space there that we use.
Thames Club is a beautiful spot. So much history there.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Right downtown New London. It's a thriving new metropolis.
Yep. And again, it has a history. It's a venerable old building, and they've done wonders with it, and it's a great organization. I love being there. So
there's great history in New London, but I think we feel the same, that there's a great future in New London as well. Just this last week, the governor was there looking at the housing boom. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
So you're down there at the Thames Club, this beautiful location for playwriting.
Yep, and we've actually, our very first event there, we performed, and then we've been all over with this group. I call it Exploratory Playwriting because it's quite different. It's a program strictly with adults, and they range in age. And we, out of the program, evolved something I call the one character wonder. And people think, the one man or the one woman show. I said, no, it's quite different, actually. It's a single character takes the audience on an emotional tour de force, a rousing roller coaster ride in which you have a character, and the character can be anything. Mm-hmm. The character can be human, non-human, old, young. There are 3 ingredients, 3 phases to it.
This is kind of the parameter of what the people in your class need to write about.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a character, it goes in 3 phases. A character is filled with angst about something, anything. Mm-hmm. And so I call it rant, reconsider, resolve, the 3 R's.
3 R's.
The character rants first, is complaining, is venting directly to the audience. And the character moves around and speaks directly to audience members, not so close that it invades the space of the audience member. It keeps a comfortable distance. And we set the chairs up in either a horseshoe or a crescent moon shape, and then we have a little pathway down the center. So the character can roam and talk to various audience members. And
so it's quite interactive then.
Extremely.
It makes it more fun, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, because it really draws the audience members in, and it feels very personal. Because the audience is sort of the character's confidant. Mm-hmm. It's the audience's pal. It goes back to when you think about it, when in Shakespearean soliloquies, the character will turn and talk to the crowd and tell them what's going on. Mm-hmm. Or even in the old-time melodramas, they have a aside to the audience. Well, this whole thing is one big aside. And right as the character is in the midst of venting, something shows up within the mind of the person, within the mind of the character, that basically brings in the seeds of doubt. Mm-hmm. And now the character is at odds with himself or herself and struggles. And this is where the emotional part comes in. Mm-hmm. The character goes through this wild, emotional tour de force where he is engaged in battle with himself or herself. And by the end of that phase, it's not looking good for the character. It looks like the source of the angst is just going to overwhelm this person.
And are the people that are both writing the play as well as acting in the play? How does that work?
The writer has a choice. The writer can perform it, or we bring in actors to do it. Some people are getting very comfortable with the performing, and they like doing it. Now, you want to, even though it's interpretive acting, you still want to feel that you are an appropriate representative of the character. So if someone is so much older or so much younger, it's better to bring in an actor or actress. Because by the end of this, when they get into the final phase, which is resolve, the character finally now has a major showdown in which the character is either overwhelmed by the source of it or prevails and has conquered the issue. And in some case, like in this case, we have 5 scripts going up. One of my writers is going to be away. Another one is in California. So there's 5 performances, but one of them, who has written some great historical works based on a family legacy from colonial and native times, he has 2 going up, but he has 2 different actresses coming in. One is a young woman, which he can't play, and the other is a swaggering colonial priest who, as it says in there, must stare the devil in the face. The young woman in there has to deal with the biases of her surroundings and her family in courting a debonair man that no one seems to like. We have other cases where one of the pieces, again with an actress, the actress who's going to be doing this, Darla Allen, has a little role on Law and Order this month. So she's a professional, and she's a very intense actress. But yes, she's on Law and Order this month too.
That's great.
And this was written by an older woman, a former minister. And what she has designed is the role of a young woman who seeks her Prince Charming and finds the devil instead. And it's what I call a domestic thriller. Thelma Waterman, the former reverend. But a former reverend or a former priest is like a former Marine. They're never really done doing what they do.
And so is there still an element of spirituality?
Oh, yes. And
in what sense?
This writer is very spiritual, and she's wonderful. I love having her on the cast. I'd love to have her on the show someday. She's an engaging human being. And in her 80s, she is still trying to write about things that will improve the lives of others.
That's great.
One of the pieces, the writer will perform it himself. He has these rescue dogs, and when you have rescue pets and you bring a new one into the home, the pet that's been living there is now suddenly worried. You know, you've got to be very careful when you bring a new pet into the house because the old one doesn't want to feel I'm being thrown over. And he's had that problem, so he's recreated it. He is playing the role of an older, smaller dog that's convinced that this big Labrador-type puppy that's coming in is entering the home, and he's on his way out and not pleased about it. And so he will play that role. So it's a wide range of things. One of them, I think the final piece, because we have a lot of props, where a woman who's divorced and her children are all grown up, so empty nester, traces the drama of her life through the various shoes that she has purchased and bought. And each set of shoes represents an aspect of her life that has emotion attached to it. So these are again, it's very eclectic. And
that's what I was just thinking. These are an eclectic set of shows you have about to start. And it was completely up to the writers to decide what they were about.
Yeah, the writer picks the topic, but there's a very strict format, and you can't deviate from that format.
The 3 R's, the format you're talking about.
Exactly, the 3 R's.
And can you give me some background on these 3 R's? Is this something Nicholas Checker came up with? Is this kind of an established thing in playwriting?
Boy, I hate it when people say both, but both. And here's why. Writing in general, storytelling in general, has what's called 3-act structure. And I call that 3-act structure a subliminal seduction of either the reader or the audience. Act 1, a character faces an obstacle. Something instantly shows up to present the character with a problem.
This is all storytelling, you're saying?
All storytelling that's effective, yes. This has been around since the dawn of time. And the character must deal with that obstacle. The character cannot retreat. The character cannot go around it, must deal with it. And then you get into Act 2, which Some people call this get your character up a tree, throw rocks at him, get him back down again. That's screenplay says that. Act 2 is the struggle, the battle. Back and forth it goes, where the character has some victories, makes progress, but then a new obstacle shows up. Character tries something, but it's inefficient. So it's like watching a boxing match where you're going, I don't know who's going to win this. By the end of Act 2, the character is in the worst possible shape. It's not looking good here for the home team, which sets us into Act 3, which is resolve it. Get the character out of the tree. The character is either going to fall down and break his neck or is going to climb down successfully. And again, it's a final battle. Whenever you watch a movie of any sort, whether it's something like in Searching for Bobby Fischer, where it's a chess game, or you watch an action thriller where there's a huge battle at the end, or you watch something like As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson, where the character is struggling with his own sense of disorder. But the character must wrestle with that in the end.
And what you're saying is it doesn't necessarily have to be a good outcome.
No, there's times
they
when...
They can lose this battle.
Yes.
But they could also win it.
Yes.
Is this also a both one too?
Yeah. Or characters sometimes win by losing. Rocky. He does not win the fight, but he wins his dignity. He takes Apollo Creed right to the end, right to the distance, which no one has ever done. And there's even that beautiful scene where he's telling Adrian, if I'm on my feet at the end, and no one else has ever done that with Apollo Creed, I'll know I'm not just another bum from the neighborhood. And so that's key, that sometimes, like in The Old Man in the Sea, Santiago comes back, the giant fish has been ripped to shreds by the sharks, but he proves to everyone, I still have it. And I did this all alone. I can still fish, I still have value. So
a lot of that can just be down to the perspective that these people have.
Yes.
Of what is that exact goal that they're going after. What is a positive outcome and what's a negative outcome?
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I hope you come. You and your mom would be terrific audience members. And in this point, too, the writers, knowing they have to stay within that structure, so instead of 3-act structure, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, I have defined what that has to be. Rant, reconsider, resolve. And in this case, it's different from a one-man show or a one-woman show where they're talking about their lives. But in this, it has those 3 phases. And the audience has to feel so engaged, and especially if the character turns and talks to them, the audience has to feel like, I better pay attention, and I don't want to move the wrong way. I don't want to get this character upset. Mm-hmm. And we will have, oh, by the way, it's free admission.
Okay, free admission. I was just going to ask how much it costs.
And it's in the community room of the New London Public Library, downstairs. You go in, and we're going to have free food.
Oh, boy.
Now, there will be a donation jar for whatever people want to put in there. It goes to the library for future events there. Mm-hmm. And
what time is it?
What is it?
What time?
1 o'clock Saturday.
1 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah. And what I don't do, Irv, is I don't say suggested donation. And I know a lot of people do that. There are people that don't have 2 nickels to rub together, and they really want to come see this stuff too. Some people, they see the jar, and some people have no problem putting $10 or $20 in. Others, $1 is a big investment, 25 cents. If someone wants to see us perform, by God, I want them to see it. So,
and that's one thing I love about you, is that you're always trying to support the creative arts in the community. You build this community of theater and people who love this area.
Yeah.
You know, what's more important than that? Providing this opportunity for people to be exposed to it.
Yeah, there's a great line in the movie Dead Poets Society where the Robin Williams character says, yes, doctors and people like that are the reason, that we're able to live, but the arts is what we live for.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
And I just love how it looks, just from the looks of this, is how eclectic both the pieces are, but also the people who went through the program and who are writing this. Everything from a previous pastor that you say to, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about some of the other writers, just how eclectic they are.
Over the course of the program, I have, well, Hank Stebbins, for example, he is a retired honors physics and chemistry teacher. And
someone that you might not think of the most creative.
no, you wouldn't. And I knew Hank for years. He helped me coach gymnastics many years ago, one of my programs. And he's a scientist, but he went and he did a history legacy, the genealogy, and discovered that he had both colonial and native roots. And he wrote a book about that called The Dead. And I'm hoping that he'll bring it, maybe sell copies, because what he's done is he's gone into the family legacy that goes back to colonial and native times and snatched out certain elements and created stories out of them. But he used to write a lot of poetry, so I knew that Hank was a closet artist. Now, he's older now, he's allowing that part of himself to blossom.
He has some time now to dedicate towards his creative outlets. That's terrific.
I have David Hamilton, who's playing created the one about the dog. Mm-hmm. He works over at the Town of Groton Parks and Rec. He's one of the building managers. And he's been in every program I've ever had. He's done screenwriting. He's been published, done short stories. He's in my novelette program. And he's one of those people, he listens to your directives. He listens carefully. And I always say in class, there's 3 things makes a good student. Are you pleasant to work with? Do you listen? Do you follow directions? David Hamilton defines that. So he's a joy to work with. And some of these people never thought of themselves as actors, but I impose that on them. And they have no problem becoming very animated in their performances.
Well, the same thing for you as well, Nick, is that, for example, David and these other people, it sounds like a lot of them, they maybe had a class with you or they had a program with you maybe years ago, but they continue to do more programs with you. That's a testament to you and your ability to teach.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I do this myself. I write. I've been published. I've performed.
That makes a difference.
Yeah. So I'm sharing with them what I've learned, but over the years I've had to learn how do you teach it too. Teaching and coaching it and doing it are very different. If you can draw upon your own knowledge as a performer, your own, what you've learned as a writer, then you have to translate that into a method for teaching it too. You can't assume that they're just going to always know what you're talking about. Sometimes when they're writing and I'm saying there's not enough clarity there, and they get tired of hearing this, I'll say, you know what you mean by that. You are fully aware of it, but we are not privy to what's in your mind. Help us. Tell us what it is. Somebody might use a term that's very common to them or to the field that they're in. The rest of us aren't in that field. We don't know what that means. So you have to say it and then define it without making the audience feel like they're remedial.
Yeah.
That's a craft unto itself.
It's so important. It makes me think about our healthcare system a little bit too. I think the average healthcare literacy rate is something like a 15-year-old literacy rate. And so when we're going to all these doctors' visits and interacting with the healthcare system, we just have to make it as basic, clear, and simple as possible. Similar to the writing and understanding that if you're not able to understand the story, then what's the point of it, right?
You're right on the mark. Because it's crucial that the audience knows it. Now, you've seen some, on movies, some great science fiction films, some great historical works, but the writers have to make sure that the audience is grasping it and understanding it. Otherwise, they turn off. Mm-hmm. They'll say, I'm going to disengage. I do not understand this. When I watched the movie Wall Street years ago with Michael Douglas, now, I know nothing about the stock market, but when I watched that movie that Oliver Stone crafted with Michael Douglas as Gordon Gekko, I came away from it not only engaged in the movie, I said, I have a layman's understanding of the stock market now because Oliver Stone taught me about the stock market during that movie so I could follow the film. And that's something in itself.
That's critical.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, Nicholas, a little bit more about this program. Could you tell me how long it was? Do you plan to do it again in the future?
Oh, yeah. We run in 8-week series.
8-week series.
And I work with, right now, 6 is the maximum I take. One person was unable to continue. I have right now 5.5 actually. One of them is a terrific young talent, Peter Yakovetsky. They all have nicknames. He's Dr. No. But he's out in California. He's a young man with a lot of talent, and he's trying to make it in the acting world. But he is part of the program Long Range online, the only one I do that with, because he loves the One Character Wonders. He's a very talented writer, too. And sometimes when his job out there allows it, we have a speakerphone class with him. We call him up, and he performs his stuff over the speakerphone. I will never forget when he went out to California, and Thelma Waterman, who I already talked about, her nickname is Firelight. It was the first day. She goes, I miss him already. And so I told Peter, I said, we're going to do another performance somewhere in midsummer. If you think you're going to be back here, target the date. I will try and set it up so you can perform with us again. But we do have one opening in the program right now. And but I've got to make sure whoever I take in, they can fit in with the rest. It is imperative that everybody in the program can work with everyone else. Mm-hmm. These students have been with me so long that they know each other. They know how to talk to each other. They all know how to offer commentary to each other.
That collaboration, I'm sure, is vital.
Yeah. And we have, by the way, speaking of unusual characters, the student that's going to be away, Pam Barber, her nickname is Willow, she has created an aging old catfish that is, her point of angst is being harangued by the other catfish because she has formed this is a fantasy piece, a bond with a young human. And the catfish, none of them like humans because they've been cruel to them. But she's trying to say, but this child has been kindly. And then the child does something that they deem a betrayal. And this old catfish has to determine, do I trust this child anymore? Are all humans bad? Or are some of them really decent as I thought? That one will be performed in the summer. Mm-hmm. So if I may, there's something I would like to throw in before we break. It's a little departure from the program. By the way, if anybody does want to get in touch with me, they can about the program. It's right on there, 860-444-8711. They can just call me and leave a message.
Or nickchecker@aol.com,
yes.
Your email. And I thought it would be important to do a couple of the special thanks for the program. You highlighted Jeannie and Steve Siegel from the Gard Art Center. They're always beyond helpful and supportive of a lot of local
unbelievable.
events.
Fairy godmother and fairy godfather.
And then Darren Wood in the Flock Maker Space.
Absolutely. Darren is a genius. Let's just sum him up like that.
And then, of course, right before we started, we were talking about how beautiful the Thames Club is and how helpful they are to support the arts and creative outlets.
It's a godsend.
As well.
Mark, the manager, Ramon, the event coordinator right now, who will become the president very soon. Darren has been the president for the last 2 years.
And then obviously we have to have a lot of special thanks to New London Public Library and their events coordinator, Tom Kramer.
Tom Kramer is wonderful. He's wonderful.
Very helpful as well. And I'm curious if you've been able to have any support from Connecticut Humanities or Congressman Courtney.
I haven't been in touch with them.
Okay.
But I will invite them
That'd be
to
great.
come see what we're doing. If I can add this really quickly.
Yeah, what did you want to go to now, Nick?
It's a personal triumph. Many, many years ago, I wrote a one-act play called Kangaroo Court, dark satire where animals put humans on trial. The theme being animals are not disposable items. And it's kind of almost Twilight Zone-ish the way it takes place. I wrote it back in 1994. It got produced and directed initially by the late Arthur Pignataro, who has always believed in just about everything I've ever written. We performed it at something called Playwrights 94 at Ocean Beach. Then it got performed over and over and over again around here. East Lyme High School did it. We did it in Mystic Village. The Mohegan Tribe, the year that it was, the theme of their powwow was called respecting the animals, hired the Flock Theater to do it, and Darren Wood directed it with all these giant puppets and everything. Finally, I sent it to a publishing house that does strictly drama, and Eldritch Publishing. Now, people then had to get in touch with them to be able to produce it. Over the years, it has been produced through Eldritch Publishing, mostly through high schools, north, south, east, west in the country. It's been in California. It was on a Sioux high school reservation. It was in Florida. Recently, I found out that a high school in Texas wanted to enter it in a statewide competition for short plays. And my publisher said, I wanted you to know that they've already purchased the rights to do it, and they're going to perform it. And then it was only last week I found out, not even a week ago, it won.
Wow, something
Kangaroo
that you
Court
wrote.
took first place in a statewide competition of high schools throughout Texas.
And Texas is a big state. I'm sure there are lots of entrants to that competition.
Yep.
Congratulations.
And Michaela Gomez was the director's name. She had gotten in touch with the publisher and said, I'd just like to let the author know what a wonderful play it is, and how proud we are to portray that message. And she said, so if you could let him know. So I got back in touch with her, told her what an honor it was that she and her students would do such a great job with it. And then she said, by the way, it won. And she sent a picture of the first place trophy. So,
wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
And also for a meaningful subject area, too, that I'm always amazed just how understanding and empathetic pets and animals can be. And the Kangaroo Court, I'm sure I'd love to see that play.
I think you would enjoy it.
Phenomenal.
Especially when the judge is revealed in the end. Because it's like an average couple is whisked into this mysterious void to represent humanity to the animals, and their cat that is at odds with them is the prosecutor. And the original version, Darla Allen, who I spoke about, she played the cat.
She played the cat in that one.
So I can't count the number of productions, but I'm proud of it. And if it just makes people walk out of that audience thinking about it, and I have had that happen. One of my proudest moments as a playwright was when a gentleman came up to me and said, I thought you and I would be on opposite ends of the coin here about this, but I'm going to think about this. I'm going to think about what your play said. And I said, well, thank you. And he asked me, he says, that's it? I said, you told me you're going to think about what my play said. That's up to you.
That's the job well done if you can help promote thought-provoking ideas.
Exactly.
And with this recent announcement of the statewide competition in Texas, any thoughts of trying to bring Kangaroo Court back to Connecticut?
I'm hoping that there might be a group around here that would like to get in touch with my publisher, because the only way it can be done now is they have to purchase the rights to do it through Eldritch Publishing. It's not that expensive. And then they could do it. I would love to see an organization around here take it on, because the message is timeless.
Great. Well, anything else you want to add before we sign off for today?
I'd love anybody watching to come Saturday at 1 o'clock and see what my playwrights have to offer them.
Awesome. Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for being on the show again, and also for all that you do in the community to promote arts and creativity and building a stronger community.
Thanks, Irv. Thanks to you and your mom for having this show.
Thank you.
Yeah.